There is a practice so simple, so accessible, so completely free, that it has sustained the health and vitality of Jewish men for 2,000 years. And I am going to tell you exactly what it is. But first, I need you to understand why most American men and most British men have never heard of it. Because the answer to that question will tell you everything you need to know about what has happened to modern medicine, and why your grandfather probably lived longer and stronger than you will, despite having access to far fewer medications and far less technology. I am 72 years old. My grandfather, Mordejai, lived to be 97. He worked with his hands until he was 92. He had clear eyesight. He had strong bones. He had the mental sharpness to argue Talmudic philosophy with me the week before he died. He did not take statins. He did not take blood pressure medication. He did not have a colonoscopy. He did not go to a gym. And yet he was stronger at 80 than most American men are at 60. Why? Because he practiced something that the Talmud preserves as a central teaching, something that activates every system in the male body simultaneously, something that modern medicine has completely abandoned because it cannot be patented, cannot be sold, and cannot be controlled. I want to tell you about the history of this practice first, because the history matters. In the Talmud, specifically in the tractate called Shabbat, which discusses the laws of the Sabbath day of rest, there is a teaching that appears again and again. The rabbis of ancient Judea understood something about the male body that we have forgotten. They understood that the body has rhythms, that these rhythms are not accidental, that the maintenance of these rhythms is literally the foundation of male health and vitality. And they built a practice around this understanding, a practice designed to keep a man strong, mentally clear, sexually vital, and emotionally balanced for his entire life. The practice is called Mikve. And before you hear that word and dismiss it as something religious or culturally specific to Judaism, I want you to understand what I am about to tell you. Mikve is not religious ritual in the way you think of it. Mikve is a physiological intervention. It is a practice that activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the part of your nervous system responsible for healing, for rest, for recovery, for the regulation of every major organ system in your body. When you understand the neuroscience, when you understand the physiology, when you understand what actually happens in a human body when it is immersed in water of a specific temperature for a specific duration with a specific intention, you will understand why my grandfather lived the way he did, and you will understand what you need to do. Let me be precise about what mikve actually is, because precision matters here. A mikve is a ritual immersion bath filled with natural water, traditionally rainwater or spring water, though in modern practice it is carefully prepared. But the specific details of the water are less important than what I am about to tell you. A man enters the mikve. He immerses his entire body, completely submerged, for a period of time. Then he emerges. That is the practice. And in that simple act, something profound happens physiologically. When your entire body is immersed in water, a cascade of neurological and hormonal changes begins immediately. Your heart rate slows, your blood pressure drops, your breathing deepens and becomes more rhythmic. Your parasympathetic nervous system, the system responsible for what is called rest and digest function, activates powerfully. This is the opposite of what happens in your normal daily life. In normal daily life, you are in sympathetic activation. You are stressed. Your cortisol is elevated. Your heart is working harder. Your digestion is suppressed. Your immune system is partially shut down because your body thinks it is in danger. This state is useful for short periods. It is designed for survival. But when you live in this state chronically, which is what modern American life creates, you age rapidly. You deteriorate. Your testosterone drops. Your immune function declines. Your bones weaken. Your cardiovascular system degenerates. The mikve practice, full body immersion, interrupts this cycle. It says to your body, you are safe, you can rest, you can heal. And when your body receives this message repeatedly, consistently, with intention, something remarkable happens. The inflammation in your body decreases, your hormone production normalizes, your sexual function improves, your mental clarity sharpens, your immune system strengthens. And these changes are not temporary. They compound, they accumulate, they become the baseline of your health. Now, I need to tell you something that the research confirms, but that modern medicine has largely ignored. In 2017, a study published in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine examined the effects of cold water immersion on immune function. The researchers found that men who practiced regular cold water immersion showed a 30% increase in white blood cell count, a dramatic increase in antiviral proteins, and measurably improved immune response. A different study, published in the American Journal of Physiology, found that regular immersion in cool water produced lasting increases in parasympathetic tone. In other words, the body's ability to rest and recover was enhanced. These are not subtle effects. These are measurable, significant, reproducible physiological changes. But here is what the studies do not capture, and what I observed directly in my own family and in thousands of patients I have worked with over 40 years. The mikve practice is not just a physiological intervention. It is also a psychological and spiritual one. And this matters profoundly. When a man engages in a practice with intention, with awareness, with the understanding that he is participating in something ancient and meaningful and designed for his own benefit, his nervous system responds differently than if he simply takes a cold shower. The intention matters, the ritual matters, the connection to something larger than himself matters. This is not mysticism. This is neurobiology. The brain changes based on expectation, based on meaning, based on context. And the mikve practice provides all of these elements. My grandfather practiced mikve regularly his entire adult life. He did not practice it because someone told him it was healthy. He practiced it because it was part of his tradition, part of his identity, part of his weekly rhythm. But the effect was profound. At 70, when most American men begin a steep decline in testosterone production, my grandfather's testosterone remained stable. At 80, when most men experience significant bone loss and muscle atrophy, my grandfather maintained his strength and his bone density. At 90, when most men are in cognitive decline, my grandfather's mind was sharp. He attributed this to God's blessing, and he was not wrong. But the mechanism of that blessing was practical, it was physiological, it was the consistent practice of a technique that activated his body's own healing systems. I want to tell you about a specific patient. Samuel was 81 years old when he came to see me. He was an American man, no Jewish background, no religious practice. But he came because he was experiencing what he called the decline. His energy was dropping. His sexual function had diminished significantly. His mood was low. His bones were becoming fragile. He was on multiple medications and becoming increasingly depressed about aging. I had known Samuel's family for years. I knew he was intelligent and open-minded. So I told him about the mikve practice, not as a religious obligation, but as a physiological intervention. I explained the neuroscience. I explained the research. And then I told him to try something. I told him to find a cold plunge facility. Now there are many in American cities, and they are inexpensive. Or to fill a bathtub with cold water. 3 times per week, I instructed him. Immerse your entire body in water that is cold, but not painfully cold, around 55 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Stay under for 2 to 3 minutes. Do this with intention. Do this with awareness that you are activating your body's healing systems. Do this as a practice, a ritual, something sacred to yourself. Samuel was skeptical, but he was also desperate. And desperation is sometimes the beginning of wisdom. He started the practice. For the first 2 weeks, it was uncomfortable. His body resisted. But by the third week, something shifted. He told me that the immersion had begun to feel good. Not comfortable, but good. Clean. Clarifying. His energy started to rise. His mood improved. Within 2 months, his sexual function had returned. Within 4 months, his testosterone levels, which had been declining, stabilized and began to rise. Within 6 months, he was stronger than he had been in 10 years. And he continued the practice. Not because he was forced to, but because he felt the benefit. Because his body told him this was something he needed. Now I want to explain exactly what is happening when you practice cold water immersion. And I want to do this in language that is clear and direct. When your body is exposed to cold water, it responds with what is called the cold shock response. Your breathing deepens. Your heart rate increases initially. Your muscles contract. This is an acute stress response. But here is what is crucial. If you stay in the cold water for a sufficient time, if you do not panic and exit immediately, your body adapts. Your parasympathetic nervous system engages. Your breathing becomes rhythmic and deep. Your heart rate stabilizes. Your body produces endorphins, natural painkillers and mood elevators, and you develop what scientists call cold tolerance, which means that over time, your body becomes better and better at remaining calm in stress, not just in water, but in life. This is precisely what the Talmud understood. The ancient rabbis did not have the language of neuroscience. They did not have blood tests and heart monitors. But they understood through observation that when a man regularly exposed himself to cold water immersion, he became calmer, stronger, more resilient, more sexually vital, and more mentally clear. And they built this understanding into the fabric of Jewish life. They made it not just a suggestion, but a practice integrated into the rhythm of the week, because they understood that habits sustained become nature, and nature becomes destiny. The practice was traditionally done weekly, on specific days connected to the Sabbath cycle. This frequency matters. It is not so frequent that it becomes a burden. It is not so infrequent that the benefits fade. 3 times per week is optimal. This is what my grandfather did. This is what the research now suggests is most effective. 3 times per week, you interrupt your sympathetic dominance. 3 times per week, you activate your parasympathetic recovery. 3 times per week, you send your body a signal. We are safe. We can heal. I performed cardiovascular surgery for 40 years. I understand the heart in ways that most people do not. I have seen what stress does to the heart over decades. I have seen atherosclerosis develop in men who were chronically sympathetic dominant, chronically stressed, chronically running on cortisol and adrenaline. And I have seen remarkable cardiovascular health in men who maintained regular parasympathetic activation. The heart is not just a pump, it is an intelligent organ. It responds to the signals your nervous system sends it. When you spend decades in parasympathetic activation, your heart adapts, your blood pressure stabilizes, your heart rate variability, which is a marker of health and longevity, improves significantly. This is not speculation. This is measured, documented, reproducible physiology. I want to tell you something that most doctors will not tell you because it is not profitable and it is not within the standard model of care. The single most important determinant of male health after age 60 is parasympathetic tone, not cholesterol, not blood pressure numbers alone, not medication compliance, but the actual capacity of your nervous system to rest, to recover, to activate your immune system, to regulate your hormones. And there is no medication that develops parasympathetic tone the way that regular cold water immersion does. None. Medications suppress symptoms. They do not build capacity. They do not teach your body to heal itself. But the Mikve practice does. It literally trains your nervous system to be calmer, stronger, and more resilient. The practice has other effects that I want to enumerate, because they matter. Cold water immersion increases brown adipose tissue. brown fat, which burns calories and generates heat. This means that men who practice regular immersion tend to maintain healthy weight more easily. Cold water immersion increases mitochondrial function, the energy-producing capacity of your cells. This means you have more energy. Cold water immersion triggers the production of norepinephrine, a neurotransmitter that enhances focus and mood. This means your mental clarity improves, and perhaps most importantly for men over 60, cold water immersion activates the production of testosterone and improves sexual function. This is not through any artificial intervention. This is your body's own capacity, activated. Now, I want to address something directly. Many American men will hear what I am saying and will be skeptical. They will think this sounds like pseudoscience, or like something only religious people do. But I want you to understand something. The mikve practice is not religious in the sense of requiring faith in God or adherence to Jewish law. The mikve practice is a technique. It is a methodology. It is something you can do regardless of your religion, your background, your beliefs. You do not need to be Jewish. You do not need to believe anything. You only need to do it, and your body will respond. The Talmud is not a religious text in the way Western people think of religious texts. It is a repository of practical wisdom about how to live. It discusses medicine. It discusses diet. It discusses sleep. It discusses sexual function. It discusses the care of the body and the mind. And when the rabbis of ancient Judea established the mikve practice as central to male health, they did so because they had observed its effects. They had tested it. They had refined it. They had passed it down because it worked. I want to give you the exact protocol because precision matters here. Find a cold plunge. Many cities now have facilities where you can access this. If you do not have access to a cold plunge, fill your bathtub with cold water. The temperature should be between 55 and 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Not painfully cold, but distinctly cold. Immerse your entire body, your chest, your shoulders, your head. Complete submersion. Stay under for 2 to 3 minutes. This is long enough to trigger the parasympathetic response, but not so long that you risk cold shock. Breathe deeply and rhythmically. Do not panic. Your body is intelligent. It knows how to respond. Exit the cold water. Dry yourself. Rest for a few minutes. Your body will naturally warm itself. This process activates what is called the Wim Hof effect, named after a modern practitioner of cold exposure, though the practice is ancient. Do this 3 times per week, not consecutively. Give your body recovery days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for example, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Space the immersions. After 2 to 3 weeks of consistent practice, your body will adapt. The shock will diminish. The benefit will increase, and you will begin to notice changes. Better sleep, more energy, clearer thinking, improved mood, improved sexual function, better appetite, stronger immune response. These changes are not placebo. They are measurable. They are real. I remember a conversation I had with my grandfather when I was in medical school. I was studying pharmacology, learning about all the medications that could manipulate the human body, and I asked him, "Zaid, why do you not take any medicines? You are 84 years old. Everyone your age is on medications." He told me something I have never forgotten. He said, "Elias, the body is not a machine that breaks down. The body is a garden, and a garden does not need medicine. A garden needs the right conditions to flourish. It needs rest. It needs water. It needs exposure to the elements. It needs rhythm. It needs meaning. And when a garden has these things, it flourishes on its own. This is what the mikve practice provides. It is not medicine. It is gardening. It is creating the conditions in which your body flourishes. And these conditions are available to you right now, today. You do not need to wait for a prescription. You do not need to wait for permission from a doctor. You do not need to buy expensive supplements or join an exclusive program. You need cold water and intention. Now, I want to address something important. If you have serious cardiovascular disease, if you have had a recent heart attack, if you have severe hypertension, you should speak with a cardiologist before beginning cold water immersion. I say this not because the practice is dangerous, it is not when done correctly, but because your individual physiology may require modifications or timing adjustments. Your doctor needs to know. But for the vast majority of men, for healthy men, and men with stable chronic conditions, the mikve practice is not just safe, it is necessary. It is the most important health intervention you can make. I have written down everything I have learned about this practice, the exact protocols, the science behind it, the modifications for different ages and conditions, the integration with other health practices, and the historical wisdom that supports it, in a detailed guide. Everything you need to know to begin and to sustain this practice. The link is in the description below. It is accessible. It is practical. It is designed for an American man who wants to be strong after 60. But whether you get that guide or not, I want you to understand this today. There is a practice, ancient and proven, that can transform your health. It requires no money. It requires no special equipment beyond cold water. It requires no faith in anything except in your own body's capacity to heal and strengthen itself. And it is available to you right now. The Talmud teaches that a man who has knowledge but does not use it is like a man who plants a field and does not harvest. The knowledge exists. The practice exists. The capacity exists within you. What remains is only the decision to show up, to step into the cold water, to allow your body to teach you what it has always known, that you are strong, that you can heal, that you can flourish, and you are worthy of the strength that your grandfather possessed. That strength is not in the past. It is not lost. It is waiting for you in the cold water, in the activation of your own biology, in the return to the practices that have kept men vital for 2,000 years.